My name is Ben Alter. I'm a naturopathic doctor and I'm also a vegan. And I went vegan first time in 2011. And really, at that point in time, I was studying nutrition before I was in naturopathic medical school. And I was in a nutritional program that encouraged us to kind of experiment with different diets and stuff. And I, at the time, was really inspired by David Avocado Wolfe. And he kind of led me in the direction of more and more raw, fresh fruits and vegetables. And I was kind of just naturally doing this elimination sort of thing. And the more raw, fresh fruits and vegetables I was eating, the better I was feeling. And next thing I know, I was like a mostly raw vegan for, probably just a year or less. But that really kind of lit things on inside of me. And then it was just, more and more learning and education and experience and health from there. So yeah, there was a couple of year hiatus in there from about 2014 to 2017 or so. And during that period, I went off of my quote-unquote vegan diet because I felt like I was needing something that my plants weren't giving me. And I was kind of miseducated, misinformed, and actually starting naturopathic medical school, believe it or not, there's kind of a paleo-centric ideology in the profession, in the school, in the training, and that kind of rubbed off on me. And I never ate meat a whole lot, but then one thing led to another and kind of re-educated, re-inspired in a deeper place. And then in 2017, really just cut the cord once again with all animal products and went vegan more knowledgeably with more tools and understanding of how to nourish myself more deeply and avoid nutritional deficiencies and those sort of things that might be obstacles for people when transitioning to a whole food plant-based vegan diet. Well, certainly the biggest thing that I've noticed difference since going vegan is doing it the right way, that is, eating enough of the whole fresh fruits and vegetables, is more energy. I'm an athlete. I love riding my bike. I love running. I love hiking. I love being outside. And I feel fueled. And I feel like I've got so much energy to enjoy the lifestyle that I want to live. And I notice my friends and colleagues who out there, and I feel like some of them are kind of struggling. I wish they had the magical superpowers that is really just as easy as understanding how to fuel themselves optimally. So that's the biggest thing. Well, the main challenge that I had during that kind of first time going vegan was my energy just started to drop, especially when I started medical school and stress levels were increasing. I was maybe not sleeping as well, not eating as well, a little bit more processed food and stuff. So that decline in energy, decline in vitality and health was a big obstacle. Besides that, I don't really find myself too affected by the social stressors, I guess, except for that period of time in medical school when I was just surrounded by that sort of thing and it just rubbed off on me. But nowadays, I feel so anchored in my understanding of physiology, nutritional biochemistry, that it's just, so common sense and so effortless to maintain this sort of lifestyle. The main thing that led me into that state of nutritional depletion, deficiency, and kind of the health that I was suffering, anemia and just general nutritional deficiency, was due to not eating enough. And I was so kind of programmed to, when I was going out to eat with friends, when I had friends over to eat with me, they would be eating their omnivorous meal and I'd be eating my plant-based meal, and it would look about the same, weigh about the same, measure up to be about the same visually and whatnot. But the fact is that whole plant foods are so much more nutrient dense and so much less calorically dense, and I wasn't getting enough fuel. And once I started to kind of tune in more deeply to what my body needed, what my body was craving, and how and what to focus on to get enough of those things that my body needed and was craving, then I was able to really indulge in the proper foods and get that fuel that my body needed. The biggest reason now that I stay vegan is just because it feels so darn good, and there's just absolutely nothing appetizing or nothing drawing me away from my whole plant foods. Well, the most important reason for others to be vegan is because no one is going to take care of you except for yourself. And what I mean by that is no one's going to heal you, no one's going to live your life for you. And eating this way, is the healthiest way to be on planet Earth. There's, of course, all of the, ethical and environmental reasons, which honestly, I feel like comes secondary because your health matters the most. And as you're able to feel your best, to live your best, then everything else just falls into place. I just imagine a world where everyone is taking care of themselves. Everyone is really healthy and vital and experiencing their best health, their most clarity. And in that sort of world, and there's less inflammation, less stress, less suffering on an individual level, then we'll just collectively be more harmonious and creative together. And, I think that's why maybe you should consider going vegan. I encourage others to go vegan by walking my walk, talking my talk. I encourage others to go vegan through my professional practice, of course, through my work as a naturopathic doctor and lifestyle medicine focused. At the same time, I really understand and respect everyone's own unique journey. And, there's this kind of principle in veganism of nonviolence. And I think that vegans can be violent in how we might approach and force people into this way of eating. So I try to avoid that. I try to avoid the ideological stuff and just kind of recognize that this is the best way to eat and live. And everyone is kind of coming into this lifestyle slowly in their own time. So having that unconditional compassion, respect, and acceptance of people's kind of journey, that's how I encourage others. No regrets in any aspect of my life, but most certainly no regrets with how I eat. And it's just so easy. Even when I'm offered a cupcake or something like that, it's just like such an easy answer to say no to that and say yes to what matters most. And really the way that I see things is playing the long game is so much more satisfying and rewarding than that momentary fleeting satisfaction that we might get from a bite of food or a glass of wine or whatever our indulgence might be. It helps us to consider the bigger picture. This is Theo. He's not vegan.
But maybe one day.
What do you think? I didn't have the understanding, education, resources, idea. I had no idea what a vegan was, like I said, until really I started. That's not true. I remember going to the restaurant and seeing the vegan items, and they looked like alternative and kind of off the side. And I guess back to my answer, I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really know the benefits. I didn't really have any understanding of how my body worked and what my body needed. So I was just out of ignorance. At this point, I do not worry at all about any specific nutrients. My main worry, which really isn't a worry now that I have a connection with my body and what it needs, but just getting enough food in general. Because when we eat the proper foods that are whole, plant, unprocessed, natural, organic, yada, 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 then we just gotta eat enough. And those plants have all of the nutrients that we need in synergy, working with one another so that we're fueled optimally. So it's just a matter of getting enough food in general. So, what's most important is that people are eating just enough calories and fuel throughout the day. And yeah, that doesn't mean that people need to be grazing all day long. That's what cows do. And we like to remind people that, yes, cows are vegan. They're actually raw vegans. They should be, eating their salads all day at the unlimited buffet salad bar. But we need to focus on more calorie-rich, also nutrient-dense foods like fruits, like starchy vegetables, intact whole grains and legumes, and so on. And when we focus on those more calorically dense foods, then we just eat good, well-rounded meals a few times a day, and we can, we don't have to be grazing all day long. We can get enough food just in our normal eating window. Intermittent fasting is totally a popular thing, and really how I refer to it and relate to it is just kind of normal healthy eating. You wake up at 6 or 7 in the morning, you drink water, you move your body, you break the fast at 9 or 10 in the morning or 11 whenever you get hungry, and then you live your life, eat lunch, eat dinner at 6, 7 at night whenever you get hungry, and then that time, 7 at night, 10 in the morning, 15 hours or so. Some people call it intermittent fasting. Some people might benefit from stretching that fasted window longer. But that's not a reason to restrict calories during the eating window. We still need to be eating enough. Yeah, it's easy to do. Some people, do get bloated and, have digestive issues when starting out, with this lifestyle. But that has to do with just individualized microbiome status and fiber and all the other stuff. So it's just a matter of what we encourage people to tune in and listen to their bodies and just eat when they're hungry, stop when they're full, eat what nature provides us, and it really doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Yeah, so it is a matter of really connecting with that authentic hunger, which is so much more easily done when we're eating real food. Because so much of the processed, engineered calories that are packaged and on the shelves of the grocery stores are designed to synthesize artificial toxic hunger, like you were saying. So once we start to kind of detox, so to speak, of those foods and really focus on real foods, then we awaken to the authentic hunger, and we can be guided by that as opposed to that kind of addictive, ravenous sort of thing. And, again, everyone's got a different relationship with that sensation, with those feelings, and with their journey of getting off of the processed junk food. But at the same time, the understanding of how our bodies work, what our bodies need, and really kind of, from my perspective, starting at that kind of intellectual place of, oh yeah, when I eat this, it causes that to happen in my body. When I eat this, it causes this to happen in my body. Every bite of food is either fighting disease or contributing to disease. Once we kind of start to tune in on that level, then it just becomes more natural and common sense to make the health promoting choices. One thing's for certain, we can observe by looking out in the world that human beings are incredibly resilient. There's so many people who don't eat anything resembling real food, just sustaining themselves off of processed calories. And maybe hopefully taking like a multivitamin, hopefully. But anyways, the fact is that there's a real difference between surviving and thriving. Look at our ancestors, our Paleolithic ancestors who might have consumed animal products in order to survive. Just because they did that, that's not evidence that that's the best way to thrive. So all of the science from, the epidemiological studies to really what's also important is just the basic nutritional biochemistry, kind of the cell biology stuff. When you kind of factor it all in, it all leads to a pretty common, concrete understanding that more nutrient-dense whole plant foods, the better. Some people say, oh, well, then that means I can eat one little fish on Saturday, or I can have turkey on Thanksgiving. And it's like, well, yeah, you can, and that might not derail you all that much, But we like to really encourage people to focus on that true north and at least have the clarity and understanding so that they're not derailed from the latest, blog that is shared on social media or the diet book that they see, on Amazon or whatever. People have that real deep understanding with themselves. And that's not to say that science doesn't evolve and shift. But at this point in time, I think it's safe to say that we've got enough evidence to suggest that we can and do thrive without any animal products whatsoever, and the more plant foods, the better. I've never met any human being that must eat meat in order to survive, otherwise would not be healthy. And that's not to say that you can't be somewhat healthy and eat meat. There's healthy people who eat meat and stuff, but my argument is that they would be even healthier if they were to eat plants in the proper way, in the proper amounts, getting enough of the nutrients from plants. Because the fact is that when people eat meat and animal products are so much more calorically dense. Back to what happened to me in my journey, when I was just focusing on getting all my nutrients, all my fuel from plants, you got to eat a lot. You got to fill up your bowl, your plate, and maybe go back for seconds or thirds, depending on what's in your bowl or on your plate. We live in this society where people are kind of told to restrict and not finish their plates and eat less. And we got to be careful with that, especially when we're eating whole plant foods, because we can fall into that kind of trap of not getting enough fuel, not getting enough nutrients. There's our starchy vegetables, there's our non-starchy vegetables, there's our leafy greens, there's also our sea vegetables, then there's our fruits, and then there's our berries, and then there's the legumes and the nuts and the seeds and herbs and spices. What did I miss? Intact whole grains. So there's a lot of kind of categories of whole plant foods. And the fact is, as long as we're getting enough fuel, then we don't really need to concern ourselves with micromanaging this amount of servings and that amount of servings. But that being said, what's really best is if we shoot for more biodiversity, more diversity of colors, of textures, of different varieties of plants, because really what that does is brings more biodiversity into our being, into our microbiome, which supports optimal gut health, of course, and that ecosystem and relationship that we have between our cells and our microbes in our gut is really a predictor of health and disease. So biodiversity is key. But in terms of things to focus on, that being said, we like to kind of bring the two camps, if you will, of whole food plant-based eating together. We like to say that there's kind of the Furman camp of nutrient density. Nutrient density is key. And then there's kind of the McDougallers of starch, just bread is fine, just more starch. And both are true. We need our starch, that's our fuel. We also need our nutrients. That's our, keeps our fuel machines, engines running cleanly. We got to bring it all together, and we can't overthink things and stress ourselves out. And really, when we tune in, our body tells us what we need. Our body is communicating to us. That banana looks really good after, a hike, or maybe it's 2 or 3 bananas. I don't know. Maybe it's like I need that salad with those sesame seeds on it. But the fact is, we don't have to overthink and micromanage our nutrition too much. We just have to eat real food. When people start learning how to listen to their body, there might be a period of overcoming that kind of voice, the devil on one shoulder, right? That might be addicted to the salt, to the oil, to the sugar, to that pleasure trap of processed, engineered food that is really designed to create that hyper-palatable, super physiological dopamine response. Tread the line cautiously as we are moving into whole food, plant-based, vegan eating. And some people do definitely benefit from a period of cleansing, fasting, maybe not fasting, not everyone needs that, but 7 to 10 days or so of just real clean whole plant eating. And then we reset our taste buds. Then we reset and recalibrate our relationship with food and eating in general. And then we can kind of use that clean slate to start building upon, and then we can really cultivate that authentic connection with the real messages that our body is sending us, rather than just that kind of voice of needing this or needing that. And the way to differentiate that voice of gotta have this, gotta have that, from kind of the authentic feeling that we have, in my experience, and everyone might be a little bit different, but that voice can kind of come from like an anxious sort of place, maybe a little bit like, restless, whereas our authentic hunger and those kind of authentic cravings come from just a real deep grounded place, not ravenous, not anxious. And that's a subtle feeling that we can all tune into. As far as medications or supplements, no, it's just whole plant foods, with, of course, the exception of vitamin B12, which doesn't come from animal products, by the way. Vitamin B12 comes from bacteria that have been largely depleted from our planet, unfortunately. So we need to get that vitamin from a supplement most of the time in order to kind of have that insurance. But besides that, there's just our sunlight vitamin D, which most people on planet Earth don't live within the proper latitudes to biosynthesize that bioavailable vitamin D in their bodies, so do rely upon supplementation. But besides B12 and D, all from foods. Love potatoes, all the potatoes, and really it goes from like every day is a little bit different, Been on many kicks of the Japanese sweet potatoes, which honestly, they're like, the first time I had one, I thought I was eating birthday cake. It was just like, wow, who baked this? But also just the good old russet or Yukon Gold potatoes. I would say that a day is not full and complete without at least one potato in there. Lots of fruit. Love bananas and berries. Definitely a smoothie kind of guy, so just jam it all in there in the morning and blend it up with a bunch of leafy greens. And yeah, definitely, I guess you could say I shoot for getting all the, beans, grains, legumes, fruit, veggies, non-starchy veggies. I don't like tally them. It just comes naturally at this point. But sometimes we do encourage people to kind of, tally the foods that they're eating just as they're transitioning to this lifestyle, to make sure that they're getting that diversity that their body needs. Dessert, my favorite dessert is nice cream. Yeah, just the frozen blended bananas, maybe some cacao powder in there, maybe some berries in there. Oh my gosh, we have turned so many people onto that, and they're like, wait a second, is this okay? Should I be limiting the amount of nice cream that I eat? And the cool thing is, with whole food plant-based vegan eating, we really don't have to limit ourselves to any of this, natural foods. Our body gives us the feedback, and then it's like, okay, I had 10 bananas today. Guess that's enough. And really the only side effect from overeating our whole plant foods is that we might feel a little bloated. We might have a bigger bowel movement, No diabetes, no high blood pressure, no cardiovascular disease. The side effects are all good.
Unless it's spinach, oxalates.
Only
or the cruciferous goitrogens.
Oh, you're going there. Well, that's only if you're have the proper environment for those oxalates to form stones, which is acidic, which is created from the breakdown of animal protein predominantly in processed foods. So,
do you want to say anything real quick about anti-nutrients?
Yeah, we talk a lot about anti-nutrients because there are a lot of myths circulating out there in the world, and quote-unquote anti-nutrients are just phytonutrients that are poorly understood, misunderstood, those poor guys. And the fact is that anti-nutrients in the context of a healthy and diverse microbiome are actually pro-nutrients. For example, phytic acid is actually a very helpful nutrient to support optimal calcium balance in the body. And some studies have even suggested that deficiency of phytate consumption is a risk factor for osteoporosis. So the more phytates that we eat in the context of a healthy plant-based diet, the healthier our mineral balance, our calcium balance, and our bone health is as a result.
And does that apply for oxalates too?
Well, oxalates, of course, are most feared in the context of kidney stones, but calcium oxalate kidney stones really only form in an acidic environment within the kidneys, and that acidic environment is created from the digestion of sulfur-containing amino acids, which create sulfuric acid, and those amino acids, cysteine and methionine, for example, are really most prevalent in animal proteins. So that good, complete animal protein actually, yes, it's good and complete, quote unquote, but it is pro-acid forming, which is going to lead to a higher susceptibility to forming those calcium oxalate kidney stones.
What about goitrogens and cruciferous?
What about it?
Well, you could eat too many, right?
From my understanding, no, you can't. That's kind of just a theoretical thing. I personally have I remember it being brought up in medical school as a theoretical phenomenon, not actually anything that's ever been clinically observed. Goitrogens contributing to, thyroid issues, for example. But yeah, I remember when it was brought up, it was like someone would have to eat 2 or 3 wheelbarrows full of broccoli raw. And who's doing that? Who's doing that? Come on, you guys. Cook your broccoli and just eat a manageable amount, That'll give you way much more gas and bloating than thyroid issues. Just do it. Just start putting plants in your mouth and just put more plants on your plate and crowd out all the other stuff. And as you start to get a taste of health on that kind of deep cellular level, your body is going to start waking up and start craving it, and listen to that. So take it easy on yourself, give yourself grace and compassion. Don't be perfectionistic with it. There's no such thing as a perfect diet, no such thing as a perfect lifestyle. Just put one foot in front of the other and listen to your body and your highest self. My favorite resources are definitely those on the Alter Health website, www.alter.health. But of course, we are standing on the shoulders of giants. We love nutritionfacts.org and all that Dr. Michael Greger is doing. We also love Dr. Furman's work and his books. And really, I think some of the most inspiring and helpful resources are those kind of documentaries and films and stuff that kind of yank on your heartstrings and kind of wake you up. Because the fact of the matter is, there's really not a shortage of information in our world. There's plenty of information to just do everything that we need to do, but there's kind of a deficiency in that inspiration, right? That kind of lights the fire on inside, and so open yourself up to being inspired. So yeah, a lot of people start eating more plants and might, maybe some people feel great and they just go with it, and other people feel like, oh, I got a stomach ache, I'm bloated, this kale is, giving me diarrhea, or these beans are giving me gas. And that is so common and natural. Whenever we change what's going in our mouth, we're going to change everything that's going on in the rest of our body, especially our digestive system, right? So those changes, those symptoms can be interpreted as wrong or bad or unhealthy, the gas and the bloating, for example. But the fact is that those are in fact healthy. The fact that we experience gas or bloating is in fact due to the microbes in our gut being overwhelmed by specific fibers that we're ingesting. So people who go from kind of a low, moderate fiber diet, 10, 20, 30 grams of fiber per day, up to 70, 80, 90, 100 grams of fiber per day. If you take that leap overnight, you're gonna have gas and bloating. It's not gonna be comfortable. That's not gonna kill you. Your gut microbes are gonna adapt and evolve and develop that harmonious ecosystem that supports you. But some people do find it best to kind of incrementally increase And some people do have the foods that they tolerate better than others. For example, most people seem to tolerate sweet potatoes and potatoes in general pretty well. So kind of focusing on that maybe as your staple as you're increasing other legumes and whole grains and vegetables and whatnot into your diet can be helpful. But we've all got those kind of, foods where, we eat a little too much and we overwhelm those microbes in our gut. They start kind of fermenting those fibers and nutrients, and then we were left with a little gas and bloating. And it happens to the best of us. It's not a sign that you're broken or that there's anything pathologically wrong inside of you. But that being said, you just stay connected and listening to your body and kind of lean in the direction of more plants, more biodiversity, and more variety as well. And then I guess I should probably bring in the fact that it is really helpful and in some cases more important than others to focus on the organic foods, because a lot of our plant products that are cultivated out there are toxic, with herbicides, pesticides, antibiotics, and whatnot that are detrimental to that microbiome and to that harmonious ecosystem living inside of us. So we need to be mindful of that as well. Yeah, well, I think my success and the way that I feel is most important to me, and I feel just better and better each and every day. But the clients that we work with it's truly inspiring. And what's I feel like so helpful to know is a lot of people have this relationship with food that like food is medicine. We hear it all the time, food is medicine. And I honestly don't really agree with that. I think that food is just fuel. Food is just what our body needs. But the fact is that our bodies heal themselves. Food just creates that environment for that natural self-healing to happen most optimally. So people are always wondering, like, what about this condition? What about that condition? What about, autoimmune this or that? And the fact is that anything is possible and everything is possible the moment we start creating that environment within ourselves for, that miracle of healing to happen. I hope it's okay I share the story of my mother. I'm sure she'd be okay with it. She's always kind of followed in my footsteps with regard to eating and nutrition and stuff. And she's eating, all the food that she wants. She's not restricting herself, and she's just, continues to release excess weight. And at this point, she just told me that she's reversed 3 different autoimmune diagnoses. It's so interesting. We go to the doctor and we got these symptoms, we get this label, and then it's like so easy to jump down that rabbit hole and go down all these treatments. And it's so empowering to know that there's another way. That's not to completely negate all that our conventional medical doctors can do for us, but the fact is that we have so much more power and so much more capacity to heal than we're led to believe. I cannot really honestly see myself eating any animal products ever again, but that being said, if I was stranded on a deserted island and there were only, fish swimming in the ocean or whatever like that, I am not ideologically at the place where I would allow myself to die with that. I'm just going to be a rational realist. But the fact is that there's so much abundance of fresh plant foods on planet Earth. We can really start, respecting and living in harmony with what nature is providing us. And what I like to say is cut out the middlemen, cut out those middle animals, cut out their flesh and secretions, and just get our nutrients from the planet. I never really had any sort of mental blocks, social blocks to going vegan. I think the main block was just that ignorance, that lack of understanding or awareness of what the heck it was. All throughout kind of my college years and when I started to cook for myself, I actually never went to the store and bought meat. I ate mostly a plant-based diet, except for when I was eating out, just because I always felt like it was kind of weird and messy and stuff to get meat at the deli counter. I didn't even know how to do it. It wasn't until I met Dr. Susanna where, she led me to the deli counter for the first time to get meat. And I was like, whoa, this is kind of weird. But anyways, yeah, I feel like the main block was just kind of my own lack of knowledge and understanding. I guess my favorite quote is actually one that I've said a lot that other people reiterate, and really that is focusing on progress over perfection. There's no such thing as a perfect diet, perfect lifestyle. We just do our best. We just do what makes sense in the moment. And sometimes we've got greater access to whole plant foods than others. Sometimes we might rely upon the baked potato at Wendy's. Maybe that's our best bet in the moment. But we just focus on progress in the direction of more health, more nutrients, more plants, and avoid that perfectionistic tendency that so many people have. Well, I'd like to remind people of your responsibility as a human being. No one's going to swoop in there and save your life and live your life for you. You are responsible for taking charge of your health, and it is completely within your reach to experience your optimal health. And I would guess that your optimal health is so much closer than you think, and it really is a matter of shifting that relationship that you have with what's coming into your body. That's what we love to witness, people having those insights, making those shifts, and really supporting people in that journey of deeply understanding how their bodies work, how their minds work, being that advocate for ourselves and our health. And if you'd like to learn more, you can check out our resources at www.alter.health. We provide all sorts of challenges, whole food plant-based challenges, as well as our Alter Your Health podcast. Just reach out if we can support you. The way that we work with people is all online, and people can jump into our program. It's called Thrive on Plants, and it includes a deep education in nutritional science and nutritional biochemistry, all sorts of support and accountability. Dr. Susanna has kitchen tutorials live each week. We've got a community call live each week, and there's just so many touch points and opportunities to receive support, ask questions, and also work one-on-one with us. Yeah, it's called Thrive on Plants, and you can head on over to alter.health and shoot us an email, or you can just sign up right there on the website.